So, how honest do you want me to be? I was talking with a client, a speaking client who works as an executive in a government agency. And I just asked her this week, "How are you?" And that was her answer. And earlier in the week, I was talking to learning and development professionals who are unsure of how employee resource groups are going to function moving forward. And not only because these groups are part of their roles, but they're also the groups that are responsible for the most of the professional development in their members' organizations. The government executive said, when a flurry of directions come that change the plans we've been working on for months, and then a new direction comes later, I just don't know how to focus on anything because I'm waiting for this new thing to hit my inbox. And then I have all of my team members asking me what to do and how do I lead in this? And so if you are joining live, if I'm wondering if you have felt this sense of overwhelm and confusion. And I know this week as a leader, I have felt the same. I felt overextended, I felt overwhelmed, and I sat at my desk right here on Monday and I stared at my two computer screens and not knowing where to begin. And so what do I need to do? What does my team need to do? I mean, if you're not feeling that right now, I'm so happy for you. But I'm curious if you've ever felt that way in the past, or maybe you're not just overextended in this moment. It's really been going on for a while, and you are starting to flirt with burnout. And so today on the podcast, we are diving in to what is going to be a likely unexpected yet proven solution that will lighten the load and improve your productivity. So, welcome to the Joyosity Podcast. I'm so glad you're joining us. If you are a seasoned leader or you're just starting out, you belong here in the Joyosity community. And even in difficult times when we face tragedy and confusion, we still base our stuff here on three bedrock beliefs. True leadership, number one, requires more than just surface level strategies. It's a profound connection to everything that makes us human. And two, we use genuine curiosity to create a positive culture with all the complex people that we work with. Because listen, that's all we got. And that joy is the heartbeat of a healthy leader and a healthy organization. And so every week we bring you conversations and research and data and more than just a couple tips and tricks. We want to build a movement with you based on hard-won wisdom, real life experiences, and what we can do to make this world better. So I'm Jen Whitmer, speaker, international speaker, leadership consultant, all around joy bringer. I'm your host and I guide us along the way so we can put these things into action. So get yourself ready, get your multiple beverages. I'm sadly out of coffee. I do have my water, but you're going to want to capture some things today. So let's get started. So depending on what type of leadership you are in, what type of industry you're in, the burnout rates range from between 40 and 83%. That's, half to the vast majority. And if not burnout, you are likely part of the 87% of workers who are experiencing significant or chronic high levels of stress. If you're like nodding along right now in the car or let me know in the comments because it's pervasive and it doesn't just feel awful. It has real results on your career and your business. It really tanks productivity at a time when we feel like resources are disappearing. And so the overwhelm is increasing. So last week I was in Boston at a summit and I was overhauling a keynote. So Keynote as a speaker is my main work product. That is the thing that I do. And so this is my main deliverable for clients. And I sat in that hotel room rereading the same paragraph 6 times. And I still wasn't sure if it made sense. And I was so foggy. I wasn't sure if it was because the quality of the writing was bad that I had done, or if I just couldn't focus. And so I got up from that desk, grabbed the carafe, and went out to explore and find the water station. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive. Don't you just need to hunker down? Like, get to focusing, right? I mean, that's the advice we heard. Well, I mean, I'd already done that 6 times. And if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. So after winding around the Lenox Hotel for a bit and admiring the gorgeous stairwell and peering around some corners, I found the water station and I filled my carafe and I got back to the room and I poured a glass of water, took a drink, and I was like, okay, reread that same paragraph. And I was like, oh, immediately I figured out what to do. I edited this one sentence. I was like, yes, that is it. That's the way to do this. And I moved on. My little exploration trip reset my mind. And that's because that little exploration trip was intentional because I know what helps me in play. And because that was a form of play. Yes, I know it feels weird to talk about play right now, but play is the surprising protection against burnout. And it is the power of your productivity and the quality of your work. It is also the protection against despair. So play is our human advantage at work. Dr. Stuart Brown found that research shows that animals who played survived better than the ones who didn't play, just like sheer making it through the day, finding food. And then neuroscientists and biologists Pellis, Iwanek, and Nelson found that mammals who played more had larger brains, which means they had faster information highways. So they learned to adapt faster and they managed their brain environment better. They managed their environment better. And all of that correlates with the neuroscientist and psychologist Jack Panksepp found. He found that play gives people the stimulants for nerve growth in the brain, helps people manage emotions better, and use executive functioning area of the brain, which means better time management, decision making, and strategic thinking. So if you got lost for a second in all of that brain research, let me just sum it up for you quickly. Here's the thing. If you play, your brain changes. If you play, it shows us that your brain and body work better. You are able to create, you are able to focus, and you are able to make better decisions all more efficiently than when you don't play. I mean, I'm raising my hand for that, right? I mean, tell me, are you raising your hand for this? This feels like something that we all want, right? And when I talk with leaders about this, I mean, many may be thinking what you're thinking right now, but play, I mean, I'm not a kid. I mean, why are we playing? And yet, even though you are no longer a kid, you're still a human, which means you don't outgrow the biological benefits of play. George Bernard Shaw famously said, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. And then Dr. Brown, back to him again, also reminds us that the opposite of play isn't work. You've probably heard me say the opposite of joy isn't work, but the opposite of play isn't work either. The opposite of play is depression. I'm going to say it again. The opposite of play is depression. And if you leave play out of work, you're not hindering only your actual productivity, which means you're not as productive and means more overwhelm. You're also inhibiting, I'll say that again, inhibiting, that's the right word, to handle the roller coaster of emotions and life. So here, let's give us a little, framework for what play is. There are a ton of different definitions from different specialists and researchers. So I'm going to give us a pretty broad definition to work with today. So play is a posture or attitude or state of mind that when you are absorbed in an activity that is enjoyable, your sense of time changes and it's a little bit exciting. And that type of play, this state of mind where you're absorbed in an activity that is enjoyable and your sense of time changes and it's a little bit exciting, has two distinct functions in the workplace. Number one, just for the sake of play, all the benefits that we talked about before. It's a connective and relational activity as well. Play is both solo and a group activity. When you play together, you create deeper relationships. You build trust, and you find the entire mood of the group shifts to a more positive and lighter space. So for the science folks again, that's because play gets your brain to release all of those feel-good hormones that you might recognize some of the names of. One, dopamine, which is connected to pleasure and happiness. Endorphins, which is the body's natural pain reliever. And your general natural feel-good drug. 3, serotonin, which keeps your mood more stable instead of erratic, which means you're able to handle your emotions better. And the next one is norepinephrine, which is like a jolt of caffeine because it is what makes you alert. And then finally, that's each individual, but for the group, play also produces oxytocin, which is the hormone that helps us connect and build trust. That's a lot for just a little bit of play. So here's what we're not doing. And I'm sure you've got pictures in your mind right now, but I'm going to say forced fun. We ain't doing forced fun. That is an activity where it is not only the activity is required, but you are expected to demonstrate that emotion at the end. This was fun. We're going to do this and you're going to like it. That ain't it, friend. That is not what we're doing. And next week on the podcast, Jeff Harry is my guest, and we're going to dig into why that's not what we're doing a little bit more next week. But so back to the benefits of play. Besides all of those benefits of play, the serotonin and the norepinephrine, all those things, it rejects the idea of overwork. That idea of like, I'm so behind, I can't take a break. So there's an old story that you may have heard that is really apt to describe this. There are 2 woodcutters. And the first one takes a break to sharpen his saw. And the other one's like, not doing that. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to get ahead while he's over there lounging. And here's what happens. The one who takes a break, A, didn't work as hard because his saw was sharper. 2, didn't exhaust her muscles. And 3, felled more trees. Where the one was like, I'm going to keep working, worked harder, exerted more effort, and didn't cut down as many trees. Play is sharpening your saw. So that is the power of play for you. So when I was in high school, I swam for my high school swim team. I was mostly swam the butterfly and the individual medley. So that's the one where you swim all 4 strokes in one race. So here's the way that race goes. You swim fly, back, breast, free. And so you started out with fly, which was my stroke. That's the one. I'm coming over. I can do it. I was fast at it. And I would sometimes be even like a third of a pool length ahead when I touched the wall to then launch into the backstroke. And then it was like someone put a rope on my ankle and kept pulling the opposite direction. I was just not a great backstroker. It was like my body didn't work that way effectively. So lots of folks would catch up with me and I'd hit the wall and I'd be overjoyed to move into breaststroke and then finish with freestyle. Fly, that first leg was so much fun. Backstroke, it was depressing. And so here is how that shows up in your work. The second aspect of play, 1, just for the sheer joy of it and the connections you get, but 2, play at work. This is the most surprising thing, that it is the more powerful outcome of play at work. When you hone in on your specific play style, the way that you play, you will find what I often call your craft, what Gay Hendricks calls your zone of genius. The type of work that not only, if it maybe doesn't even feel like play, sometimes it does, it is enjoyable and almost effortless to you. And this has to do with your play personality. So when you discover your particular play style and you work on that area as it relates to your work, this is your work superpower. I mean, Don't you want that? Something that is easy for you and you're great at? I mean, this feels like a little bit of no-brainers because this is not only your area of expertise, it is where you are the most productive, where you feel like you're in flow, time disappears. And people are often like, how'd you do that? It also gives you all of those great hormones and play benefits that protect you against burnout. It's like discovering your play personality and working on it is a 2-for-1. You are more productive, which means a reduced mental load, and you feel good, which protects you from overwhelm and burnout. I mean, so I'm imagining that your next question is, what are the play personalities and how do I figure out mine? So there are 8 play personalities. These are 8 areas of expertise, 8 areas of high productivity levels. When I come into teams and I work on this, we go a lot deeper than what we're able to do, obviously, today on the podcast. But we're going to give you a little play personality snack today. So these are my definitions of play based on Dr. Stuart Brown's work and his identification of these 8 play personalities or play styles, and my own experiences with leaders and teams and overlapping them with the Enneagram and other tools that I work with teams. So in general, you have 1 lead play personality and 2 supporting ones. Now, I'm going to describe them to you now. And if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm driving, like, how am I going to do this? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to listen right now, and that's fine. And then you can go and take the quiz at jenwhitmer.com/play quiz, jenwhitmer.com/play quiz. And you can take the quiz. And at the end, you can download something that gives you all 8 play personalities. So I got you. But for now, I want you to listen. So the first one is the collector. And the collector is that person who like loves to gather things. They may be like the garage sale specialist or the one who's like scratching off all the Major League Baseball stadiums. One of my friends who lives in England, he has a spreadsheet of every Indian restaurant he's ever gone to. So that is play to them. That collecting and curation is exciting. Here's what that does at work. It is finding and recording the things that are just as meaningful as having the thing. So maybe a sommelier, maybe a sportscaster, a librarian, a CPA, an archivist, a data analyst, a curator, a records manager, all of those types of people, that feels like play when they're in their element. So you craft as a collector, you're the one that's crafting the details and the history at a professional level, supporting institutional knowledge and productivity in a way so everyone knows the details and where to find them. So that's the collector. Then we have the competitor. You're like, competition, I'm ready. I'm all in. And you know what? You're winning it. That's how you feel. Like pursuing victory is the best part of the game. And so competing against yourself or others or watching a competition, you get all of this energy from that. And so at work, that really turns into strategy and focus and clear goal setting. And you turn that into a career that may be, yes, an athlete or a coach, but maybe a finance professional, maybe a marketer, an entrepreneur, maybe just a strategist, a litigator, an investment banker, a sales professional. I find that lots of sales professionals, one of my good friends, I swear he could sell absolutely anything. He currently works for an organization that sells vacuum cleaners to industrial places for cleaners. And he worked there for 2 months and was the top salesperson because he's a competitor and he's going to win. And so it applies to your work. So if you are a competitor in your craft at work, you are going to find the strategies, you're going to find the way to achieve the goal. And we all need that. So if you are the creator, which is the next one, this is number 3 of 8, the creator, you are often seeing things that people can't. You seem to make beauty and unique perspectives out of like thin air. You may not be somebody who paints, like not necessarily someone with the easel and the painter or a sculptor, but you might craft, garden, bake, write, design, content creator. You might be a coder, a decorator, a woodworker, an architect, somebody who can use your imagination and very often your hands to bring something to life. So, as a career, that might be an experience designer, a museum curator, an app coder, an entrepreneur, again, a chef, a baker, somebody who has an Etsy shop, or that is your boutique. So, your craft of creating, when you're doing that, it brings beauty and function into the world. And when you're doing that, that is your work superpower, that hands-on doing the thing that makes something come to life. Then the next one is the director. And this play style is like making things happen. It's like child's play. You're like organizing, throwing a party, arranging everything, creating a system, managing large groups, boom, boom, boom. Basically, you turn chaos into order with ease and a smile. You might be somebody who at work turns that into an event planner, a project manager, a cross-functional team leader, a systems specialist, a volunteer organizer, the COO, that operations director. You might be a director, an administrator, a teacher, a restaurant manager. Whatever that director space is, you at work, so your craft as play is getting the ideas and the vision, the resources together, and getting people to move toward action. Then we have the explorer. So curiosity is your North Star, and you love exploring things. So there is always something new to learn. So when I was telling that story of the woodworker, and Brendan is saying, "Oh, I learned that from Simon Sinek," and I learned that story from, oh my gosh, I am blanking on the name of the planner, Franklin Covey. That is where I learned that story. And I wanted to go explore, where did the story really come from? Where did it originate? I could go down a rabbit hole of exploring that. And there's always something new to create or see. And that is the explorer's play personality. So it could be research, it could be an experience, it could be experimentation, it could be brainstorming. At work, your exploration creates options for people that they often can't see. And so you're experimenting, you're researching, and that turns into a host of different types of careers as a scientist, an inventor, or a performer, a speaker, a content creator, an innovator, a tour guide, an astronaut, a farmer who is experimenting and exploring. Those are simply, that is the type of person where play feels like there's something new to try, a groundbreaking idea, and you bring people along with you in the inevitable sea of changes. So then we have the next group, which is the joker or the jester. So, like, jokes are just like breathing to you. You may have been the class clown or the court jester. You play with the absurdity that is life as a human. And you might be pranks for people, or you might just be the funny story or the commenter or that witty pun that comes along. And that turns into, as a craft, somebody who can lighten the mood, but also find the unique perspective. So you might be a writer, a copywriter, a trainer, a journalist, a humorist, and you find the lighter side to help us all deal with the difficulty of being human and how we work together. Then we have two more. So number 7 is the kinesthete. Movement is what flows for you. The freedom of moving your body is it is more fun than winning the game. You come alive when there is movement. So you're connecting your body and possibly even pushing it to the extremes is so much fun for you. I have a friend and I'm always like, "Really? You want to run the ultra marathon?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." And if we've been sitting around for a while and everybody's reading a book, she's like, "I got to go. I got to move," because moving is what is play for her. And so you, yes, might be what you typically think of. You might be an athlete. You might be a dancer, but you also might use choreography of movement, how you move people through a space. A circus artist, a massage therapist, a firefighter, an occupational therapist, or physical therapist. Through your craft, you use your body to improve the lives of others. And then the final play type is the storyteller. Playing always means a story. Like you just simply, like, there are stories everywhere. You live in an experience and the emotions, the characters, the atmosphere, and like you create these worlds in your imagination. So just in your everyday life, you think of things as a collection of micro stories and you weave facts together into those, like into the experience. As your craft at work, you are the one that brings us context. You're the one that's going to tell a story, maybe not just the water cooler, but also as somebody who shares data, who is the communicator, the content creator, the playwright, the screenwriter, the teacher, the presenter, the one who finds the deeper story and purpose in all the data and helps us make sense of it. Your style of play as craft takes the narrative and makes it real to other people. So those are the 8 play styles. Remember, you can go to jenwhitmer.com/play-quiz. I think I can even put it in the comments if I'm paying attention. Can I do that? And I can do the comments? Yes. And so I want to go back to that story I was telling you about the swim team. So one of the other events, this is me looking somewhere else, one of the other events at the swim, as a swimmer, is the medley relay. So in the medley relay, you have 4 people, each swimming one individual stroke, and you have back, breast, fly, and free. No one was ever going to put me in the medley relay as a backstroker. No, ever. So we were going to put someone else in that role. Typically, we're going to put Karen in that role. And then Jill was going to jump in and be the breaststroker. Then I could do my fly, and my other friend Jen, because there are tons of us, would anchor that freestyle leg. That is what made a team, not us all doing the same thing. But what made us a team was us doing what we were the best at together. And so your team at work is the same. So not only you discovering your play personality adds to your productivity and joy at work, discovering how your team functions best based on play also boosts your trust. You get more collaboration, less redundancy, higher productivity, and no one has to force that fun. So go ahead and grab that quiz. It's at jenwhitmer.com/play-quiz. And what I'm going to, if you get to the end, there's a space where you can say, I want to see all the styles, and you'll get this. And it's going to take you through the cheat codes of what each one was, what you can do at work, what your strength is, what you can try to help make that really applicable to give you that productivity we've been talking about at work. So that's what you want to grab. And I know that it's a little weird to talk about play. Here's the important truth you need to know. I want to remind you that the opposite of play isn't work. The opposite of play is depression. And in the overwhelm, when I was talking to this government executive, we are trying to plan an event for her 3 teams that are happening together. And she was getting feedback and she was telling me about how much fun it was to ask all of these questions of people. So I'm going to bet she's an explorer. And she was like, I mean, it's been the best part of my job. So even in the middle of this overwhelm, this difficult space, she had a moment of joy and fun that was incredibly productive for her because now she's using this feedback to make her team better. The exploration turned into craft, turned into work and benefit for her team. That is the power of play. You've got 8 different ways, 8 different experts on your team to protect you against burnout, to bring joy into your workspace in tangible ways that are meaningful to you as a human, to your trust as a team, and being that resistance to despair. So I keep saying this over and over again. Joy at work is the very thing that keeps us alive. And it gets us all the other things that we think we want: engagement, productivity, profit, all of that. But joy is what will save us. So let me put my coach hat on for just a moment. Don't just leave this here. Take a moment. What did you learn? What's your next tiny action step? Share this episode with someone and tell them what you're going to do. Check the show notes for all the links and connect with us on LinkedIn and all the other socials, or just, drop me an email at Jen with 2 N's at jenwhitmer.com. We want to keep this conversation going with you. I know your earballs have a lot coming at them, so thank you for listening to the Joyosity Podcast and being a part of our community. Please take a moment to rate and subscribe. It helps more people join us in the movement to create positive culture with complex people. So work is a joy, people are whole, and organizations flourish. Can't wait for you to join us next week.